If you've ever looked at someone and thought you had them all figured out, this story is for you. Rows of new recruits stood in formation, a mix of nervous energy and stiff posture. They were the fresh faces, the ones still learning the ropes. It was a woman in a plain, standard-issue uniform. She wasn't tall or imposing. There was nothing about her that screamed leader. Her posture was relaxed, her expression calm, her eyes observant. She looked ordinary, too ordinary for the scene that was about to unfold. He moved down the line of recruits, inspecting them with a critical eye. He stopped dead in front of the quiet woman. He glanced at her name tag, then scanned her shoulders and chest. No rank insignia, no medals, no unit patches. Just a blank uniform. He grinned, making sure his voice carried across the entire yard. So, he boomed, "What's your rank, soldier?" The woman didn't flinch. She met his gaze and answered calmly, her voice steady. "I'll speak to the commanding officer." A ripple of laughter went through the recruits. The sergeant let out a short, barking laugh of his own. "Oh, you will you?" he mocked. "You don't get to choose who you talk to here. This isn't a suggestion box. Now, answer the question." She remained silent. Her silence seemed to amplify the tension. The laughter from the other soldiers grew louder, fueled by the sergeant's bravado. Someone in the back muttered, probably fresh out of basic training. Another whispered that she didn't even look like she belonged on a military base. The sergeant leaned in, his face just inches from hers, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Let me guess," he sneered. "Are you a private, or did you not even make it that far?" The woman finally broke her silence, but her voice was still low and controlled, without a hint of fear or anger. "I said I'll speak to the commanding officer." That was the final straw. The sergeant's face hardened, his amusement replaced by pure irritation. "You think you're special, don't you?" he snapped. "You think being quiet makes you important." He pointed a finger at the ground in front of the formation. "Step forward, now." She did as he commanded, stepping out in front of everyone. All eyes were on her. The sergeant began to publicly dress her down, listing every supposed regulation she was violating. Her posture, her lack of insignia, her insubordination for refusing to answer. The whole yard became a stage, and she was the unwilling star of the show. Through it all, she didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She didn't raise her voice. She simply stood there, hands loosely at her sides, waiting patiently. Minutes ticked by, and the air grew heavy. The recruits watched, some feeling a pit of discomfort in their stomachs, others just enjoying the drama. Finally, the sergeant had had enough. "Last chance," he spat. "State your rank." The woman took a slow, deliberate breath. Then she spoke, her voice clear and ringing with an authority that no one had expected. "4-star general." The entire training yard went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. For a split second, everyone thought it had to be a joke. A single nervous laugh started, then immediately died. The sergeant just stared at her, his mind struggling to process what he'd just heard. His disbelief quickly turned to rage. "That's impersonating an officer," he barked, his voice shaking. "You are in a world of serious trouble." Without a word, she reached into her pocket, pulled out a neatly folded document, and held it out to him. "Verify it," she said simply. He hesitated for a moment, then snatched the paper from her hand and unfolded it. As his eyes scanned the document, his entire demeanor changed. The color drained from his face. His jaw went slack. He looked up from the paper to her face, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and sheer terror. Just then, the sound of an approaching vehicle grew louder. A sleek black staff car rolled onto the training ground and came to a smooth stop nearby. The passenger door opened, and the base commander himself stepped out, followed by two of his top aides. The moment the commander saw the woman, he snapped to a perfect salute. "So you finally arrived, ma'am," he said, his voice filled with deference and respect. Every soldier on that field froze. The cocky sergeant looked like he'd seen a ghost. The official document slipped from his trembling fingers and fluttered to the ground. "Yes, sir, I mean, ma'am, he stammered, completely falling apart. The general turned her attention from the crumbling sergeant to the formation of wide-eyed recruits. Her calm presence now seemed to fill the entire yard, radiating an undeniable authority. At ease, she commanded. For a moment, no one moved, still processing the shock. Then, slowly, like a wave, every soldier relaxed from their rigid stance. She turned her gaze back to the sergeant. Her voice was even, not angry, but carrying the weight of a powerful lesson. "You judged rank by appearance," she stated. "You used humiliation as a leadership tactic." The sergeant couldn't even meet her eyes. He just stared at his boots in shame. "I'm here on an unannounced inspection," she continued, her voice resonating across the yard. "And you, Sergeant, have failed." She then addressed the recruits one last time. "Remember this day," she said, making eye contact with many of them. "True authority doesn't always announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. And respect should never, ever depend on your assumptions about a person." With a simple nod to the base commander, she turned and walked towards the waiting car. A profound silence followed her every step. The recruits, the officers, and the now demoted sergeant watched as a true leader departed, leaving a lesson that would echo far beyond that training yard. Later that day, the whispers started. The story of the quiet woman and the loud sergeant spread like wildfire. The sergeant was reassigned to a post where he wouldn't be in charge of anyone. The base's training protocols were put under immediate review. But, for the young recruits who witnessed it, the lesson was permanent. Power doesn't need to shout. Sometimes, the most powerful presence in the room is the one that waits, and watches, and listens. What do you think? If you were one of those recruits, how would you have felt watching that unfold? It really makes you think about how we judge people at first glance. If this story made an impact on you, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps more people see these powerful messages. And for more stories that challenge the way we think, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever underestimated someone, only to be completely blown away? Thanks for watching.